The galactic threat emerges. The vast expanse of space had never seemed so oppressive. Admiral Zix's era of the Galactic Alliance stared out the view screen of her flagship, the Hope's Dawn, at the swirling nebula before her. Its beauty was a stark contrast to the grim news she had just received. "Another system lost," she muttered, her four eyes blinking in rapid succession, a sign of distress among her species. "How many does that make now?" Her second-in-command, a towering insectoid named Krivak, consulted a holographic display. 17 in the last solar cycle. "Admiral, the Devourers are advancing faster than we can evacuate." Zixera's tentacles curled in frustration. The Devourers, that's what they called themselves, a fitting name for a species that consumed everything in its path. Entire civilizations, some far more advanced than the Alliance, had fallen before their relentless onslaught. "We can't keep running," Zixera said, turning to face the bridge crew. Each member represented a different species, a testament to the diversity of the Alliance. "We need a new strategy, something the Devourers haven't seen before." "With all due respect, Admiral," Krivak chittered, "we've tried everything. Our weapons are ineffective against their shields. Our fastest ships can't outrun them. Even our best cloaking technology can't hide from their sensors. What's left?" Zixera was about to respond when a small, rodent-like creature scurried onto the bridge. It was Pip, the ship's data analyst. "Admiral, Admiral," he squeaked, waving a data pad. "I found something." "This had better be good, Pip," Zixera said, her patience wearing thin. Pip connected his data pad to the main holographic display. A star map appeared, zooming in on a spiral galaxy. "I've been analyzing historical data, looking for patterns, anything that might give us an edge. And I found this." The map zoomed in further, focusing on a small, unremarkable solar system near the edge of the galaxy. "It's a planet called Earth," Pip explained, "home to a species known as humans." Krivak's antennae twitched skeptically. "Never heard of them. What makes them special?" Pip's whiskers quivered with excitement. "That's just it. They're not special, at least not technologically. They've barely left their own solar system. But look at this." The display changed, showing a series of historical records. Battles, inventions, exploration missions. These humans, they're incredibly adaptable. They faced extinction-level events multiple times and survived. They've made technological leaps in mere decades that took other species centuries. And in combat, Pip paused for effect. They're unpredictable, innovative, sometimes even reckless. Zixera leaned in, her interest piqued. "Are you suggesting we recruit these humans to fight the Devourers?" Pip nodded vigorously. "Exactly. The Devourers have seen everything our cultures have to offer. But the humans, they're an unknown variable. They might just be the wild card we need." Krivak buzzed doubtfully. "It's absurd. You want us to pin our hopes on a primitive species that doesn't even know alien life exists. What choice do we have?" Zixera asked softly. The weight of countless lives lost, of worlds destroyed, hung heavy in her voice. "We've tried everything else. If there's even a chance." She straightened, decision made. "Plot a course for this Earth. We'll send a small team to make first contact. If these humans are half as resourceful as Pip suggests, maybe, just maybe, we have a chance." As the Hope's Dawn changed course, heading towards a small blue planet in a distant arm of the galaxy, none of them could have predicted the chain of events they were about to set in motion. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the shoulders of a species that had yet to realize its own potential. Somewhere on that blue marble, oblivious to the approaching aliens and the cosmic war that threatened to engulf them, humans went about their daily lives. They argued and loved, created and destroyed, dreamed and despaired. They were, in many ways, unremarkable. But soon, they would be called upon to save the universe, and in doing so, they would discover just what humanity was capable of when pushed to its limits. The journey to Earth was tense. Every moment, Zix Era expected to hear alarms, signaling the approach of devourer ships. But as they entered the Sol system, carefully cloaked to avoid detection by Earth's primitive scanners, an eerie calm settled over the crew. "It's so quiet," Krivak observed, his compound eyes taking in the view of the blue planet growing larger on the view screen. Zix Era nodded. "Enjoy it while it lasts. Something tells me that once we make contact with these humans, quiet will be in short supply." As they prepared to enter Earth's atmosphere, none of them realized just how prophetic those words would prove to be. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never underestimate humanity, especially when their backs are against the wall. First contact and skepticism. The small delegation from the Hope's Dawn touched down in a remote desert area, their ship's advanced cloaking technology hiding them from Earth's primitive radar systems. As the dust settled around their sleek craft, Zix Era took a deep breath of the alien air. "It's so heavy," she remarked, her respiratory membranes fluttering to adjust to the new atmosphere. Krivak's antennae twitched nervously. "Are we sure about this, Admiral? These humans don't even have a unified planetary government. Who do we approach?" Before Zix Era could respond, a cloud of dust on the horizon caught their attention. A convoy of black vehicles was approaching at high speed. "It seems," Pip squeaked from behind them, "that the choice has been made for us." The vehicles screeched to a halt a short distance away, and humans in dark suits and sunglasses poured out, weapons drawn. "Well," Zix Era sighed, "here goes nothing." As the alien delegation stepped forward, hands raised in what they hoped was a universal gesture of peace, a stern-looking human woman emerged from the central vehicle. "I am Special Agent Sarah Chen, United States Government," she announced, her voice steady despite the extraordinary situation. "You are in violation of restricted airspace. Identify yourselves immediately." Zix Era stepped forward, her translators working overtime. "I am Admiral Zix Era of the Galactic Alliance. We come seeking your help." For a moment, silence reigned. Then, to everyone's surprise, Agent Chen burst out laughing. "Oh, that's rich," she chuckled, wiping a tear from her eye. "Let me guess, you need our planet's gold to save your dying race." Krivak chittered in confusion. "Gold? Why would we need such a common element?" Agent Chen's laughter died abruptly. She studied the aliens more closely, noting their advanced technology and the genuine desperation in their eyes. "You're serious, aren't you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zix Era nodded solemnly. "I'm afraid so. Your planet, your entire species, is in grave danger. We need to speak with your leaders immediately." What followed was a whirlwind of activity. The aliens were whisked away to a secure facility, subjected to countless tests and interrogations. World leaders convened in emergency sessions, arguing over how to handle this unprecedented situation. Days later, in a heavily guarded conference room, Zix Era found herself facing a panel of skeptical human leaders. "Let me get this straight," the U.S. president said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're telling us that there's an unstoppable alien force out there, consuming entire civilizations, and you want us, a species that's barely set foot on our own moon, to help you fight them." "That's correct," Zix Era replied calmly. The Chinese premier scoffed. "This is absurd. Even if we believed you, what could we possibly do that your advanced civilizations couldn't?" Pip, who had insisted on joining the meeting, scurried forward. "It's precisely because you're less advanced that you're our best hope. The devourers have seen every tactic, every weapon our cultures have to offer. But you humans, you're unpredictable. You think outside the box in ways we can't even comprehend." The room erupted in heated debate. Some leaders were intrigued by the possibility of advanced alien technology. Others feared it was all an elaborate hoax or, worse, a prelude to invasion. As the arguments raged, a quiet voice cut through the chaos. It was Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, a renowned physicist who had been brought in to verify the aliens' claims. "I think," she said, her voice gaining strength as the room fell silent. That we're missing the point here. Whether or not we believe in this threat, the fact remains that we've just made contact with an advanced alien civilization. This is the single most important moment in human history. We have a choice to make. Do we turn our backs on the universe, or do we step up and face whatever challenges lie ahead? Her words hung in the air, their weight palpable. But before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Agent Chen burst into the room, her face pale. "Mr. President, we're picking up multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere at high speed." They're not ours." Zixera's heart sank. "The Devourers," she whispered. "They found us." As if on cue, the sky outside darkened, massive ships blotting out the sun. On screens around the room, news feeds showed panic erupting in cities worldwide as the alien vessels appeared. The president turned to Zixera, all skepticism gone from his face. "I think," he said grimly, "we're going to need that help you offered." In that moment, as terror and determination warred on the faces of Earth's leaders, Zixera felt a glimmer of hope. The humans were about to face their greatest challenge, and she had a feeling they were going to surprise everyone, including themselves. Outside, the first Devourer ships began their descent, their ominous forms casting long shadows over a world that would never be the same. The battle for Earth and the galaxy was about to begin. Preparing for war. The following weeks were a blur of activity as humanity grappled with its new reality. The initial panic had given way to a grim determination as people around the world united against the common threat. In a repurposed military base in the Nevada desert, now dubbed Operation Starfall HQ, an unlikely alliance of human and alien minds worked feverishly to prepare Earth's defenses. Dr. Amelia Rodriguez stood before a holographic display, her eyes bloodshot from countless sleepless nights. Next to her, Zixera watched in amazement as the human scientist manipulated complex equations with ease. "If we can reverse engineer the phase shift technology from your ships," Amelia mused, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface, "we might be able to create a planetary shield. It won't stop the Devourers entirely, but it could buy us time." Zixera nodded, her tentacles curling in admiration. "In mere days, you've grasped concepts that took our scientists centuries to develop. It's extraordinary." Amelia allowed herself a small smile. "Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say on Earth. Speaking of which, how are the weapon upgrades coming along?" As if on cue, a thunderous explosion rocked the facility. Alarms blared, and Zixera instinctively reached for a weapon that wasn't there. Amelia, however, just sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. "That would be Major Chen's team," she explained, leading Zixera towards the source of the commotion. They're enthusiastic about testing new weaponry. They entered a vast hangar, now filled with acrid smoke. As it cleared, they saw a grinning Major Sarah Chen standing next to a smoldering piece of alien technology. Behind her, a massive hole had been blown in the reinforced wall. "Dr. Rodriguez, Admiral," Sarah called out, waving them over. "You've got to see this. We've managed to combine your plasma technology with our railgun designs. The destructive potential is off the charts." Zixera stared at the destruction in awe. This level of weapons development should have taken years, not weeks. Sarah's grin widened. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral. We don't do things by halves here." As they discussed the new weapons capabilities, a young soldier burst into the hangar, out of breath. "Major Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, you're needed in the command center immediately. We've got a situation." They rushed to the command center, a hive of activity with screens displaying data from around the globe. At the center stood General Marcus Donovan, his weathered face grim as he studied a holographic map. "What's the situation, General?" Amelia asked, her voice tight with concern. Donovan pointed to a cluster of red dots moving across the map. "The Devourers have breached the outer solar system. They'll reach Mars within hours. Earth. Earth is next. A heavy silence fell over the room. The moment they had been preparing for, yet hoping would never come, was upon them. Sarah was the first to speak, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. "What's the plan, sir?" Donovan squared his shoulders. "We activate the planetary shield and evacuate as many civilians as possible to the underground bunkers. Our combined fleet will engage the enemy in orbit, while ground forces prepare for possible planetfall." He turned to Zixera, his expression softening slightly. "Admiral, we'll need your expertise to coordinate our ships. Many of our pilots have never flown beyond our atmosphere, let alone engaged in space combat." Zixera nodded solemnly. "Of course, General. My crew and I are at your disposal." As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, with orders being shouted and personnel rushing to their stations, Amelia caught Zixera's eye. "I never thought I'd see the day when humans and aliens fought side by side," the scientist mused. Zixera's tentacles curled in what Amelia had come to recognize as a smile. "If there's one thing I've learned about humans, Dr. Rodriguez, it's that you have a remarkable capacity for adaptation. I believe the Devourers are in for quite a surprise." Outside the base, the first evacuation shuttles were taking off, ferrying civilians to safety. Soldiers marched in formation, their newly upgraded weapons gleaming under the desert sun, and high above, the first elements of Earth's hastily assembled space fleet moved into position, a mix of retrofitted human spacecraft and alien vessels. As night fell, the stars seemed to shine brighter than ever before. But among them, keen eyes could spot new lights, the approaching Devourer fleet, bearing down on humanity's home. In homes and bunkers around the world, people huddled around screens, watching as their leaders addressed the planet. The message was clear. Humanity stood on the brink of its greatest challenge, but they would face it united, with new allies at their side, and the indomitable human spirit as their greatest weapon. As the final preparations were made and the world held its breath, one thing became clear: win or lose, the coming battle would change the course of human history forever. The war for Earth, for humanity's very existence, was about to begin. The human factor. The vastness of space was shattered by the flash of weapons fire and the silent explosions of ships meeting their doom. Earth's combined fleet, a hodgepodge of hastily retrofitted human vessels and Zarthosian ships, engaged the Devourer Armada in a desperate battle above the blue planet. On the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Hope, a converted aircraft carrier now capable of spaceflight, Admiral Sarah Chen gripped the command console, her knuckles white. Beside her, Zixera's tentacles danced over alien controls, coordinating the fleet's movements. "Delta Squadron, watch your flank." Sarah barked into the comm. "Zulu Team, provide cover fire for the Zarthosian cruisers." The space around Earth was a chaotic ballet of light and destruction. Human fighters, piloted by the best Earth had to offer, darted between the lumbering Devourer ships, their unconventional tactics catching the enemy off guard. "This is insane," muttered Captain Lai Wei as he barrel-rolled his fighter, avoiding a barrage of energy weapons. "But damn if it isn't working." Indeed, the human pilots' unpredictable maneuvers and daring strategies were causing confusion in the Devourer ranks. Ships that had conquered countless civilizations found themselves outflanked by smaller, more agile craft piloted by beings who seemed to thrive on adrenaline and impossible odds. Back on Earth, in the depths of Operation Starfall HQ, Dr. Quaim Osei and Zora Al-Fayed worked feverishly at their consoles. The planetary shield, a shimmering dome of energy encompassing the Earth, flickered under the constant barrage of Devourer weapons. "The shield's holding," Zara reported, her fingers flying over holographic keyboards. "But we're losing power. We need to find a way to reinforce it, or we'll be defenseless within hours." Quaim's brow furrowed in concentration. What if we modulate the shield frequency? Randomize it based on the patterns of the attack? Zara's eyes widened. "Like an adaptive immune system." "That's brilliant. but the calculations required. "Leave that to me," Quaim grinned, cracking his knuckles. "You just keep that shield up." As they worked, implementing a solution that the Zarthosians had never considered, the battle raged on above. On the Devourer command ship, the hive mind that controlled the vast armada buzzed with confusion and growing concern. These humans were not behaving as expected. Their tactics were erratic, their technology a baffling mix of primitive and advanced. For the first time in eons, the Devourers faced an enemy they couldn't predict. Back on Humanity's Hope, alarms blared as a massive Devourer ship broke through the defensive line, heading straight for Earth. "It's charging its main weapon," Zix-Era cried, her voice filled with dread. "If it fires, it could punch right through the planetary shield." Sarah's mind raced. They had no weapons capable of stopping a ship that size and time. Unless... "Major Morrison," she called out, "remember that crazy idea you had during the briefing? The one we all laughed off." Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the comm, a mix of excitement and trepidation evident. "The Trojan horse maneuver. You can't be serious." "Admiral." "Dead serious, Major. It's now or never." What followed was a maneuver so audacious, so utterly human, that it would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. Major Morrison's team, piloting a captured Devourer scout ship, activated their phase shift drive, passing straight through the massive ship's shields. They materialized inside its cavernous hangar bay, immediately setting to work with a combination of high explosives and reprogrammed Zarthosian energy cores. 30 seconds to critical mass," Morrison shouted as his team fought off waves of Devourer drones. "We need extraction, now." Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a swarm of human fighters punched a hole through the Devourer ship's defenses. Led by Captain Li Wei, they entered the hangar bay in a hail of weapons fire, covering Morrison's team as they made their escape. The massive Devourer ship, moments away from unleashing devastation upon Earth, instead erupted in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, disorienting nearby enemy vessels and creating a gap in their formation. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen." Sarah's voice rang out across the fleet. "The enemy is in disarray. Press the advantage. For Earth." As the tide of battle began to turn, Dr. Osei and Zara's modifications to the planetary shield came online. The dome of energy pulsed and shifted, adapting to each Devourer attack and growing stronger with each impact. In the command center, General Donovan allowed himself a small smile. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "We might just pull this off." The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the Devourers appeared, hope blossomed in the hearts of defenders. Humanity, with its unique blend of ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer audacity, had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. As the conflict raged on, the stars themselves seemed to bear witness to a turning point in galactic history. The Devourers, long thought invincible, had met their match in a species they had gravely underestimated. The war for Earth and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, with humanity standing tall against the cosmic tide. Triumph of the human spirit. The battle for Earth had been raging for days, and the strain was beginning to show on both sides. The combined human and Zarthosian fleet had managed to hold the line, but casualties were mounting, and the void loomed ever closer. In the depths of the Starweaver, now serving as the command center for the Allied forces, Dr. Samantha Chen pored over data streams, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Suddenly, she sat bolt upright, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "That's it," she exclaimed, startling the Zarthosian scientists around her. "We've been looking at this all wrong." Emperor Xylos glided over, his iridescent scales dulled with exhaustion. "What have you found, Dr. Chen?" Samantha's eyes gleamed with excitement. "The void isn't consuming everything, it's converting it. Look at these energy readings. They're not consistent with destruction, but with transformation." She pulled up a complex series of equations, explaining rapidly. If we can reverse the process, create a sort of anti-void, we might be able to not just stop it, but reclaim what it's taken. The Zarthosian scientists chittered in disbelief, but Silos held up a hand for silence. How do you propose we do this, Doctor? We'll need to create a massive energy pulse, tuned to the exact inverse frequency of the void, Samantha explained. But the power requirements, it's beyond anything we currently have. Major Jake Morrison, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. What if we use the void's own energy against it, like a cosmic judo throw? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Zora Al-Fayed who broke the silence, her voice filled with awe. We could use the planetary shield generators, reconfigure them to absorb and redirect the void's energy. It's insane, High Counselor Zora muttered. The risks are no greater than doing nothing, Xylos finished. He turned to the human team, his multifaceted eyes shimmering with something akin to respect. You have my authorization. Do what must be done. What followed was a frenzy of activity. As the battle raged in space, with Captain Lai Wei leading daring attacks to keep the Devourers at bay, the ground team worked tirelessly to modify Earth's defenses. Dr. Quain Osei and Zora Al-Fayed led the effort to reconfigure the planetary shield, their fingers dancing over controls as they implemented changes that would have taken Zarthosian engineers years to conceive. Ready for power-up, Quain announced, his voice tense. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comm. All ships, fall back to defensive positions. We're about to light this candle. As the Allied fleet retreated, the Devourers pressed forward, sensing victory. The void itself seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, tendrils of nothingness reaching out towards Earth. Now, Samantha shouted. The planetary shield generators whirred to life, but instead of projecting outward, they began to draw in energy. The void's advance slowed, then stopped, as if confused by this new development. It's working, Zora exclaimed. We're absorbing the void's energy. But their elation was short-lived. Warning alarms blared as the energy levels spiked beyond predicted levels. We can't contain it, Quain shouted. The systems are overloading. It was Major Morrison who provided the solution. We don't need to contain it, he said, his voice calm amidst the chaos. We need to redirect it. Captain Wei, are you thinking what I'm thinking? One step ahead of you, Major. Lai Wei's voice came through, tinged with excitement. All fighters, form up on me. We're going to give this void a taste of its own medicine. In a maneuver that would be remembered for generations, the human fighters, led by Captain Wei, formed a spearhead formation. As the planetary shield released its pent-up energy in a massive pulse, the fighters used their enhanced engines to ride the wave, directing it straight into the heart of the void. The result was beyond anything they could have imagined. Where the pulse struck, the void began to unravel. Stars long thought lost winked back into existence. Entire solar systems were restored in the blink of an eye. The Devourer ships, cut off from their source of power, began to drift aimlessly. The hive mind, for the first time in its long existence, knew fear. As the pulse expanded outward, reclaiming more and more of the galaxy, cheers erupted throughout the Allied fleet. On Earth, people emerged from their shelters, looking up at a sky that seemed somehow brighter, more alive. In the command center, humans and Zarthosians alike celebrated, millennia of cultural differences forgotten in the joy of shared victory. Emperor Xylos approached Dr. Chen, bowing deeply in a gesture of profound respect. Dr. Chen, humanity has not only saved our civilization, but restored hope to an entire galaxy. We are forever in your debt. Samantha smiled, exhausted but elated. We did this together, Your Majesty. Perhaps this is the beginning of a new era of cooperation between our peoples. As the celebrations continued, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if welcoming the dawn of a new age. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the indomitable spirit of a species that refuses to give up. The void was gone, the devourers defeated, but the true victory was in the bonds forged between races, the knowledge gained, and the realization that even in the darkest hour, hope could be found in the most unexpected places. As Earth took its place in a now thriving galactic community, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again, thanks to the courage, ingenuity, and unwavering determination of humanity.